Okay, let's go from simple to advanced grammar again. And we're going to be looking at double comparatives today. Again, the name doesn't really matter. Just pay attention to the simple structure and how we make it more complex. So the simple structure reads, as the virus spreads, it becomes stronger. I have a sentence that starts with as, and then I have an action. Then, after the comma, I have the second part of the sentence, which seems to be the result of that action. So first I have an action, then I have a result for that action. Now, some people can argue and say that this is not really a result. They're happening at the same time, but it doesn't really matter. To make it more understandable, we'll look at action and then result of that action using as. As I read more, I become stronger in vocabulary. As I do something or as something happens, right? Something else happens. Now, yes, it could have a similar meaning as I do this, I do that. So they're same time actions, but we're going to just concentrate on action, result. Now, if we do action, result, we can make this into a more beautiful structure that is called a double comparative, like this. The more the virus spreads, the stronger it becomes. So all I really did is I removed the as, and instead I brought the more. Then I kept the rest the same. The virus spreads. And then here I brought in the stronger. So I had stronger already. I just said this stronger. And then I moved it around and said it becomes. So basically, I'm just taking stronger and putting it in the beginning of that. Now, I know this looks weird, but in the next couple of minutes, you'll see how it works very well. So the more the virus spreads, the stronger it becomes. The more I do something, the better I become at it. Now, let's look at what we do to create this grammar. We can use more or less, mostly more, of course, by using the more plus subject plus verb, like this. The more you eat, the more you sleep. So I have the more here on the first side, and then I have subject verb. So you eat, you do something. It could be I do something. It could be any subject and any verb. And sometimes maybe you have something after that verb, and that's okay. The point is you have the more and then subject verb. And then on the other side, again, you have the more and then again subject verb. Another sentence. The more you study, the more you learn, right? So very simple. You're using the more plus subject verb and then again the more plus subject verb. Or you could do the more plus noun plus subject verb. So it's very similar, but it'll be something like this. The more, and then you have food you eat, the more, and then you have weight here you gain. So the more food you eat, the more weight you gain. The only difference is you're bringing in the noun after more. The more books you study, the more knowledge you gain. So again, the more, then you have your noun, and then your subject verb. Again, the more noun, and then your subject verb. So this structure with more or less, mostly with more, is the easiest way you can make double comparatives. And it's very common, and it's still considered advanced grammar. But we can also use comparative adjectives. So we would be using the plus comparative adjective. What are comparative adjectives? Any adjective that has ER, right? Plus subject, and then be, we use be because be comes with adjective. So it would be something like this. The stronger, that's the comparative adjective. You are, that's the subject and the be. The harder, again, that's the comparative adjective. It is, again, that's subject and be. Now, I like to call it subject and be. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily subjects, but it's more like noun and be, just to make it easier. The easier it is, so again, comparative, subject be, the higher it is. Again, comparative, subject be. But sometimes you can't make your adjectives into comparative adjectives because they are longer. They have more than one syllable. So when we say hard, we can easily say harder. When we say strong, we can easily say stronger. But if we say accurate, we can't say accurater. We have to say more accurate. Like beautiful, we have to say more beautiful. So again, we're doing the same thing, but we're using more to create that comparative effect for the adjective. So the more plus adjective plus subject verb. And again, in this case, your verb is, the be. So it could be like this. The more accurate the information is, the easier it becomes. Now, become is also used as a be verb. The more flexible it is, so the more flexible, and then again it is, the more practical it will be. And yes, you could use future as the result. You could always use future with will as the result. So in this case, the only difference is you have bigger adjectives that you can't use ER with, so you're using more. Now, we can mix everything up as well. You don't have to just use more plus noun structure or more with adjectives or just, comparative adjectives. You can mix it up, kind of like this. The more you read, the stronger your vocabulary becomes. So I'm using the more here and then subject verb, but on the other side, I'm using comparative adjective and then subject verb. I could say, the happier you are, the more jobs you'll be offered. So here I'm using comparative first, and then on this side, I'm using more plus noun and then subject verb. The more she studies, the better she becomes. So really, it doesn't really matter if you mix it up or not, or you just want to use one structure the whole way. What matters is that you pay very close attention to the subject and verb that come afterwards. So lots of people might say a sentence like this: the more studies, the better becomes, and the subjects are not clear. Or people like to, remove the de and just use more you study. So all these things are very important. Pay attention to the de that is used, pay attention to the structure that is used, make sure you have a subject and verb following the comparative or the more or whichever structure you use. But you can mix it all up and it's not an issue. Most of the time we use this for simple present to kind of generalize about results that come after actions. But you could also use the second part as future with will or going to, because results can be the future of an action. All of that is fine. Pay attention to this structure. Try to use it in your speaking and your writing.